Hello. Today I am in Lake Toya in Hokkaido, Japan. As you can see, it is absolutely beautiful. And I wanted to talk about this question that I have been contemplating for quite some time now. I think this question kind of popped into my head like about a year ago. Um, but in the past 5 months since I've been living in Japan, studying abroad here, I've been actively like thinking about it, journaling about it, and I think I finally have an answer. So I wanted to talk about it. It's been very interesting because I feel like I've kind of gone on this quest to understand, to answer this question, and in doing so, I have changed. So that's just been really cool. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. When I first came to Japan, I've been studying abroad here. I started in Tokyo, but I'm on like a trip here in Hokkaido, and I'm about to be home. But at the beginning, when I was contemplating this question in Japan, I thought that like coming to Japan, like, oh, like a new environment, this will certainly change like everything inside of me and inside my head. But obviously that was not the product. I was continuing to have the same thinking and belief patterns and kind of falling into the same behaviors I had before coming to Japan, and I just had no idea how to deal with it because I really wanted to change. When I first journaled about this question, I said that change for me was, quote, breaking negative patterns of thinking, and that I had been replaying old past wounds that no longer existed in this reality. And I wanted to live in my heart more than my head. Like I felt like I was overthinking a lot, I was overanalyzing a lot of things, I was just not really experiencing what was in front of me because I was so in my head. And this kind of brought me to like, okay, I need to change this, I need to figure out how to change because I don't like how my thoughts are in my head. And I was really lost in the beginning because it seemed very impossible to completely change because the way that I was existing had been how I have existed since I could remember. Like the negative thoughts or the negative beliefs about myself have been all that I've basically known. So it was like, how do I change this? How do I completely change myself and thus change my reality? It was like this huge question where I was like, this seems like impossible. Like, how does anyone do this? In the beginning, this question, I thought that I had to completely like deconstruct every belief and every thought that I've ever had and just become like this blank slate. And obviously if you have this perception of change as like you have to become basically nothing that you've ever, like you have to unbecome everything, like that's going to be very overwhelming. The feeling will become like impossible. Like it will just feel like it will be impossible to change. I felt like a lot of resistance to changing because looking back now, knowing what I know now and realized was I was going about my thoughts and feelings in a very wrong way, and my idea of how to change in a very wrong way. And I realized that my desire for change was really coming from a place of like aversion and rejection of my current state of being. By wanting to change, I was really thinking that I never wanted to feel pain again or experience like the current state that I was in, which I labeled as negative, and what I was feeling negative. And so I wanted to change because I just didn't want to experience any anxious thoughts again, and I wanted to basically become someone who doesn't feel negative feelings. It's just not a good place to come from to actually create change, because I was just wanting to get rid of my negative parts of myself, and that was in itself a rejection of myself. The reason why I was feeling resistant to change is because I was resisting those parts of myself, I believe, and which is why I think it was so hard for me to actually get the momentum of change, was because I was like resisting at every moment, like feelings of pain and my anxious thoughts. I was just like resisting them. And so how can you really change if you're constantly running away from yourself, is what I'm saying. Like, how can I change if I can't accept those perceived negative parts of myself, because I really believe that in reality these parts will always exist within myself. And although maybe some of these parts might get quieter, they will always be there. And by trying to resist them, I am therefore resisting my full self and resisting the true acceptance of myself, which is crucial for positive change to actually occur. I wanted to read a part of my journal that will hopefully make more sense. So while I was studying abroad in Japan, or in Tokyo, I went to this club to see an artist that I had been listening to for a couple of years. And the room inside the club where the artist was performing was so incredibly packed and crowded, and my face was just like always in somebody's sweaty back, and somebody was always like pressed up on all sides of me, like everywhere. And I'm really short, I'm 5 feet tall, so the air that I was breathing in was everyone's like recycled air, so it was really like dense, like sweaty air, and it was very like, I wasn't going to suffocate, but it felt like I could suffocate, and it was very uncomfortable. And throughout the show, it just like kept getting more crowded, and I felt so uncomfortable and anxious, and I was very scared that I was actually going to be suffocated or like get trampled. And I was so close to just like freaking out and like having a full-on panic attack and just leaving the event. But I remember there was a moment where I was like almost to my breaking point, where I was like, okay, I need to get out of here, like I don't care, I need to leave. But then I just remember thinking to myself in that moment, like, no, I am going to endure this, and I will not run away from this uncomfortable feeling or situation. And then I just started crying. I just started crying in the club. And yeah, I just started crying, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna cry, I'm just gonna feel this out, and yeah. And really in that moment of acceptance and like release, I realized that all these people around me crowding me and making me feel so like suffocated, they're like my thoughts, they're like my negative beliefs about myself, they are like everything that I've been wanting to change. I realized how overwhelmed and exhausted I was from trying to control my thoughts and trying to control like everything inside my head, and even like the people around me, because I was trying to control all these people around me in the crowd, just like I am constantly trying to control my thoughts, trying to change them, trying to get rid of them, and trying to control them. In my daily life, I am just trying to avoid pain or feeling pain at all costs. Every time a negative thought pops into my head, or an anxious thought pops into my head, or any negative feeling, I'm just trying to avoid it. I'm trying to get rid of it as quick as possible, and I'm completely labeling it as horrible and negative, and I don't want to feel it, because if I feel it, that means that I'm feeling negative, and that means that I'm being negative, and then I'm just negative, and then I'm feeling horrible. If I had left that crowd, I would have left a very fun, and now out of it, a very enlightening experience for myself, out of fear of my own pain or fear of a bad experience. And I kind of realized, like, what is life without pain? Who am I without all parts of myself, the light and the dark? And the truth is, I will always have these very uncomfortable thoughts. I will always experience, not always, but I will probably most likely experience a negative cycle again. And time again, I will experience something painful. But my reaction to myself and these experiences is what is really making me suffer. My aversion to my negative thoughts and my negative beliefs is what has kept me stuck, and it is what has kept me from changing. And so I just stayed in the crowd, and I enjoyed the music, and every time those feelings of overwhelm came up, I acknowledged them. I didn't try to change them. I didn't label them as bad. I just let them exist. I let myself exist as I am, and I enjoyed what was right in front of me. So what I have written here is that I realized that being human means constantly experiencing pain, but it also means constantly experiencing joy. And is pain actually bad, or is it just another experience? And would the pain even be as bad if I just accepted it with open arms? Is my past even all that negative, without me trying to label it as such? And is my future even all that scary if I wasn't so afraid of potentially experiencing pain again? So I think change for me at this stage of my life is no longer being afraid of experiencing pain and a radical acceptance of all parts of myself and of all my thoughts and feelings. And as bad as or weird as it sounds, accepting the inevitability of pain and suffering has allowed me to feel a lot more free than I had before. And through true acceptance of myself and my experience of reality, I have created positive change within myself. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to post more of my thoughts after journaling about them for 6 months straight. Bye!